Dearest gentle reader, today's episode we will be talking about a classic. This book was written in 1875. When I first got married to my husband, he kept talking about this book, kept talking. Then I have a lawyer friend as well that keeps making references to it. So I'm like, so my interest was piqued. I decided to, okay, let me even see this book. Now, you can't make out the words or the author of this book like this, but I will pin a clearer copy for you to see. Hmm. Dearest gentle reader, that's how I started reading The Sorrows of Satan, written by Maria Corelli. This book was written in 1875, and the story still resonates with our society today. It's a very, you would say, okay, all the books I read are interesting, but well, I can't help it. I do have some boring ones, and maybe eventually I will talk about the boring ones, but to say it is interesting is an understatement. It is captivating. Before we go into the story proper or the themes for me, let me just read part of what happened. Lucio tells Geoffrey Tempest the story of an Egyptian king's favorite who turned a city into an earthly paradise by taking care of all her subjects. Lucio adds, the king's favorite was something like Mavis Clare, in that she possessed genius. She also had the qualities of justice, intelligence, love, truth, and a most noble unselfishness. She made this place happy. It was a paradise on earth while she lived. When she died, its glory ended. So much can a woman do if she chooses, so much does she not do in her usual cow-like way of living. Lucio and Mavis' encounter leads to one of the most striking scenes of the novel. The roles between Lucio and Mavis seem to be inverted. She is not tempted by him, as she is perfectly content. But upon meeting her, the devil is tempted towards goodness. The Sorrows of Satan can seem to be a harmless, feel-good, middle-brow Victorian novel. Some might find its bitterness towards the British literary scene of Corelli's time a bit tedious. W.T. Stead, editor of the Review of Reviews, wrote on the novel's publication. Now, let me share what I liked about the book. It's a Victorian Faustian tale where a struggling and starving and hungry and whatever synonyms you can think of, yes, think of it, writer Geoffrey Tempest inherits a fortune and is befriended by the mysterious, charming Prince Lucio Romanes. Actually Satan in disguise. Now, most people read this novel as a dramatic devil story, but it's deeper and sharper than that. The devil is the most honest character. True, Lucio Satan isn't written as pure chaos. No, he's observant, logical, almost painfully self-aware. Corelli flips expectations. Humans lie, posture, and compromise. Satan, he tells uncomfortable truths. Wealth is a spiritual test, not a reward. Jeffrey's inheritance looks like a blessing, but it's actually exposure. Money doesn't change him, it reveals him. Corelli suggests poverty can induce or preserve humility, while wealth amplifies pride and insecurity. You know this thing, when we were growing up, we'll say, this person became rich and the person changed. Did the person really change? Or did the person's true character become, did the person reveal his true nature? Poor people can hide under humility because they are poor, they pretend to be humble. But when fate changes their circumstance, then we'll see who they really are. And who we really are, really, because while we're talking about them, I'm also talking about me. So who am I really? I might want this, I might want that, I might want that, I might want. When I get these things, who am I underneath it all? Do I continue my Christian girl going to mass every morning or every Sunday, come back, help the poor, listen and do all the things that are expected of me? Or do I become haughty and like, I don't have time for this person. Why is this person calling me? Why? Who is he? Does he know who I am in the society? Are you up to the level of people we talk to? There are people like that who have seen success overnight and become monsters. Not that they became monsters, they have always been monsters, but they just did not have the opportunity to exhibit it. Now, the loneliness of evil. Lucio is powerful but profoundly isolated. His sorrows aren't about ruling hell. No, they're about rejection and estrangement from God. The novel subtly presents evil not as a thrilling rebellion, but as tragic separation. That's what evil is. That's what hell is, really. Separation from God. Fame and literary hypocrisy. Corelli takes shots at the literary elites of Victorian England. Geoffrey criticizes popular taste while secretly craving recognition and applause. I mean, we see it on social media every day. You see somebody, you just type because you can type, because you have data, because you have a phone, someone you would normally not approach on a good day. And then you hurl insults at the person because you have a phone and you have data. You know? And meanwhile, you're craving what that person has. You want to be who that person is. But because you don't have the means, and then you sit behind a fake ID and type and spew rubbish from your head or from your heart or from your lips. It's a quiet commentary on artistic envy, intellectual snobbery, the performance of moral superiority. Sound familiar? And there was no social media when this book was written. As in, everything this book teaches is still relevant today. Romantic ideal versus romantic illusion. Mavis Clare represents spiritual purity. We already talked about her earlier. Sybil symbolizes ambition without depth. But here's the twist. Jeffrey doesn't fall because Sybil is wicked. He falls because he chooses glamour over substance. Do we want love or status? I said, when I read this book, I was like, damn, 1875, and this is, I think I read it some years ago, but this is 2026, and it's still relevant. Everybody's packaging. You know, status over intellect, status over substance. That's what we're doing now. Everybody's packaging for the internet. You put your best face forward. You put your best foot forward. Your aesthetics are pleasant. Oh my God, it's so beautiful. But then, where do you have substance? Pride disguised as self-pity. Jeffrey constantly frames himself as misunderstood, but much of his bitterness is wounded ego. Corelli exposes how self-pity can mask arrogance. That's uncomfortable, which is why readers gloss over it. You should read this book, honestly. It will speak to you. You will see parts of yourself in the book. I mean, who is perfect? None of us is, or none of us are. You will see yourself in the book. The same way I see myself in The Chosen when I watch it sometimes. You will see yourself in this book. Theological undercurrent, free will. Lucio tempts. Oh, he tempts. Oh, he whispers those words, but he never forces. The destruction in the novel is self-chosen. That's the moral engine of the story. Evil persuades, humans decide. Who will not be? I mean, today's first reading was about Jesus' temptation in the wilderness. I mean, if the Son of God was tempted, who am I? Who are you that you will not be tempted? He will tempt you, but he will not force you. Your desires will help you choose what it is you want. The real tragedy isn't damnation, it's wasted potential. Jeffrey begins with talent and moral awareness. His downfall is gradual. His downfall is gradual compromise, not dramatic rebellion. No. Corelli's warning isn't fear the devil. It is guard your desires. That's why when I see all these posts on social media that people say, do whatever makes you happy, I laugh because do you know what will make me happy? Hey, if I try to do what will make me happy, I'll probably go to confession and the priest will give me penance that will last me a year. You don't just do what makes you happy. That is not what the Bible teaches, or that is not what I don't know what faith we practice, but even religious houses, I don't think any religious house that is what their salt will tell you to do what makes you happy. We didn't come here to live for ourselves. We came here to live for others, to live and serve others, for us Christians, like Jesus did. In summary, the main theme is moral and spiritual corruption that follows the pursuit of wealth, fame, and modern pleasures. In short, the cost of abandoning genuine spiritual and moral values for materialism, decadence, and social ambition. Clock it. There's not much more to say. The book is interesting. I recommend it to anybody and everybody. It's on Amazon because I really don't know I don't even know that bookshops will have it here. It's that old, but it's on Amazon. So if you're abroad and or even if you're in Nigeria and you can afford the shipping cost, I'll suggest you buy and send to your address. It's a beautiful it's a beautiful book. All the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. Okay, let's go to the first chapter. Let me just quickly read. Do you know what it is to be poor? Not poor with the arrogant poverty complained of by certain people who have 5 or 6 thousand a year to live upon, and who yet swear they can hardly manage to make both ends meet, but really poor, downright cruelly, hideously poor, with a poverty that is graceless, sordid, and miserable. Poverty that compels you to dress in your one suit of clothes till it is worn threadbare, that denies you clean linen on account of the ruinous charges of washerwomen, that robs you of your own self-respect and causes you to slink along the streets vaguely abashed, instead of walking erect among your fellow men in independent ease. This is the sort of poverty I mean. This is the grinding curse that keeps down noble aspiration under a load of ignoble care. This is the moral cancer that eats into the heart of an otherwise well-intentioned creature that makes him envious and malignant and inclined to the use of dynamite. When he sees the fat, idle woman of society passing by in her luxurious carriage, lolling back lazily, her face mottled with the purple and red signs of superfluous eating, when he observes the brainless and sensual man of fashion smoking and dawdling away the hours in the park, as if all the world and its millions of honest hard workers were created solely for the casual diversion of the so-called upper classes, then the good blood in him turns to gall, and his suffering spirit rises in fierce rebellion, crying out, why in God's name should this injustice be? How many times do we see people who are better off than us or than ourselves, and we posture these exact words? The sorrows of Satan. You should read. I highly, highly, highly recommend. If you can find it, get a copy and keep. I can't even borrow this copy because it is all torn. I'll give it to a binder to bind for me. It is all, see, this is how bad the book has fallen apart. So yes, find a copy and keep for yourself. The copy I have here, it's published by Leadway Books, Nigeria Limited, 49 Oka Road, Onisha, Nigeria. Damn. And this one, it was signed in 1985. So that's to tell you how old this copy is. So please get a copy, read, and let's talk about it in the comment section. Bye. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, okay?